Do you have a fridge on your boat, or do you have an icebox? And why is it important to know the difference? Hi, I'm Nika Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about the difference between a fridge and an icebox, because I don't know about you, but if you live on land, you might use those two terms totally interchangeably. It matters on a boat. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Marmara Imports. Their hand-loomed, fair trade, organic cotton Turkish towels are highly absorbent, dry quickly, fold flat, and are soft and luxurious. They're perfect for life aboard. Use coupon code PODCAST10 for 10% off any order of $40 or more. MarmaraImports.com. More than a towel. That's MarmaraImports.com. Cold totally matters. In the blog post that's associated with this podcast, I talk about a little snippet from David McCullough's book, The Path Between the Seas, which is this whole awesome discussion of the building of the Panama Canal. And there are some really, really neat little side stories. So delicious. They totally could have been left out of the book. And in fact, he knows they could have been left out of the book because they appear as footnotes underneath a bold line that's below the text. Ice is kind of a big deal. And as land dwellers, it's really easy to take refrigeration for granted. Probably that's something that you, if you're looking at buying a boat, are absolutely expecting to find on board your boat. I don't know about you, but when I'm talking about my fridge at home, I use fridge and icebox interchangeably. They're the same thing. There's no difference between the two terms as far as I'm concerned. We haven't lived in the world that people used to have to hand cut ice in the wintertime and store it in great big sheds with lots and lots of sawdust in between each block to be able to have ice during the year. If you're looking to buy an older boat, if you're budgeting and your boat budget is maybe a couple zeros less than some other ones, maybe you're looking to buy an older fiberglass boat because you can buy a bigger one than you can if you go older as opposed to buying a newer one. Sometimes there were some boats that aren't that old that people didn't put refrigeration on, and they might have an icebox. You might see the listing on Yacht World that says icebox. Well, an icebox and a refrigeration system on the boat, they're not the same thing. If you have an icebox on board, it's probably a pretty big box, a pretty big cabinet with a whole lot of room. And it's really got a whole lot of room because the only way that it does anything to make cold is by you having to put in really big blocks of ice at the bottom of the box. Yeah, block ice, not even bags of ice. And ice blocks take up a lot of space. An icebox, in other words, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a box designed to hold ice. Maybe there's room for a little bit of food on top, but it's basically a box designed to hold ice. You don't have to have any power, so you're not dealing with solar panels or a generator or shore power or some kind of another alternate power generation system. You don't have to have power. You do have to find a source of ice every 2 to 5 days, depending on the box and depending on the insulation, and really depending on the size and kind of ice that you buy. Block ice holds cold a whole lot better than ice cubes does. And if you want to test this, you can get a cooler and put a bag of cube ice in it, or you can actually open up the bag and scatter it and see which one melts faster. You also could get a bag of ice and put it in there, and you could freeze a gallon container of water in your freezer and put it in there and see which one melts faster. Most of the time, and most is being loose because there are a lot of people who cruise without refrigeration or an icebox of any kind. But if you're looking to buy a boat and you're from the United States, you're probably used to, and you're probably thinking that your boat should have refrigeration on it. And refrigeration on a boat is a mechanical system of some kind that relies on power, not ice, to cool the air that's in the refrigerator. There are a lot of different ways you can power that refrigeration system. It might be engine drive. It might be 12 volt. It might be 10 volt powered. I would not advise a propane refrigerator, but I think there probably are some, maybe trawlers in particular, that have a propane system. But with a refrigeration system, you don't have to source ice at all. You're not bound to going to find the ice that you need to put into that box. You just have to source the electrical power, either from the engine, from a generator, from batteries, or from shore power. So the big difference between an icebox and a refrigerator is how you source the cold. With an icebox on board, you better source ice somewhere. With a refrigerator, you have to source the power. Make sure you know what you have. However you have cold, or even if you don't, I'll look forward to sharing an Anchorage with you sometime, and we can toast to each other and our good fortune to being out there. Thanks again to our sponsor, MarmaraImports.com. More than a towel, use with imagination. Thanks for listening to the Boat Galley podcast today. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends about it. And a review is always appreciated. As a side note, both Carolyn and I will be at the Annapolis Boat Show, manning the booth M5, which is the party publication booth, right next to the Hendricks Gin Barge. If you're around, come say hi, let us know you listen to the podcast, and we would love to share a smile and a hug. We'll see you either in Annapolis or out there somewhere. Have a great day.